What's up, magical people? Welcome back to your most magical life. I'm Mia Magik, and today we are talking about the incredible, beautiful magic of the winter solstice. I have a very needy kitty right now, so she just wants to be held. So this is one of our oldest, most celebrated days, holy days. This is a cosmological alignment. This is a solar alignment. This is the longest night of the year in the northern hemisphere. Of course, it's the longest day of the year in the southern hemisphere, but this has been one of our most commonly celebrated holidays, holy days throughout every major ancient civilization. We have built all of our sacred sites to honor this day. All of them allow the sun to shine in a particular way. They get complete, precise little beams of sunlight pouring and coursing through their, whatever it is, altars or peepholes or, okay, you ready? Any kind of pyramid structures in order to utilize that beam of light, sort of like a laser beam, right, on the sunrise morning of the winter solstice, because the light is returning. So if you'd like to join me in ritual on the winter solstice, December 21st at 10 a.m. PST, we're going to be honoring this sacred time. And of course, I'm going to share here some rituals and some ideas with you, because the best way to celebrate winter solstice, of course, is to rise with the sun. You know, you want to honor that time. The light is returning. The darkest night has ended. And so we get to rise with the sun, greet the day, greet the warmth and the light returning. One of the most important things that people don't talk about often enough is that, of course, this was this amazing solar alignment, but this is where we get the story of Jesus's birth. This is an age-old myth that has been anthropomorphized many times. If you look at the old Hindu scriptures, I believe it was Arjuna, there are all of these stories that are just like this, where the light is returning or the light of the world is born, and it's a celebration of the solstice. Again, this is what our temples and sacred sites have been built to and for thousands of years, like beyond our concept of time. You know, when you look at the pyramids of Egypt, some Egyptologists will be like, oh, it's 5,000 years. But when you talk to Graham Hancock and people like that, they're like, no, this is like 20,000 years old, 15,000 years old, much older than we originally thought. We have this incredible metaphorical allegory that is Jesus's story. The three wise men are the three stars in Orion's belt. They're only visible in the winter sky. And so those are the three wise men. Frankincense and myrrh, those are womb herbs. Those help to stop the bleeding after giving birth and help to re-tighten the muscles, or kind of re-strengthen the muscles of the womb after giving birth. That's why they brought her frankincense and myrrh, because she just gave birth. And we only had all of the herbs and the plants as our medicine back in that time. So this story, again, is so much older than Jesus himself as an avatar, as an awakened being, as an ascended master. And so we get to really work with this energy and this time and utilize some of these beautiful, special, sacred rituals, like adorning our homes and bringing things in from outside to honor the spirit of this holy day, which is the sun. And so this is very important to recognize, because the church, those who are in power, I'm sure many of you have seen Wicked, the church made witches, dragons, all of our pagan, original, indigenous holy days and celebrations, which again, winter solstice was celebrated all over the world. All over the world, every civilization, every corner of the globe. And when the church came in and colonized, doesn't matter where you come from, you came from an earth-based indigenous civilization at some point in your lineage, at some point in your history. Far enough back, that's how you lived, because that's how we all lived. And the church came in and changed all of our holy days just slightly, just shifting them a little bit on the Gregorian calendar in order to change our worship from the ways that it has had and has always been into the Christian form of worship, into the ways they wanted it to be. Because then they can charge money, right? There's tithings. You have to pay to get your grandma out of purgatory or whatever. And they took away our natural medicine. They took away our form of worship. They took us out of nature and away from our true nature. And so by celebrating the solstice, by utilizing some of these pieces that we're going to talk about in this video, you are reclaiming your true nature. You are reclaiming your connection to the cosmic and cosmological cycles of the universe, or at least in our galaxy, like our galactic alignment, and reharmonizing, reattuning your body with truth, with our innate way of being. And it's so potent, it will change your entire life. And the reason why we are filming this video in front of my altar is because these are the OG solstice decorations. Sorry, the cat is in heat. She's like very needy right now. So these decorations all have significance. The evergreen boughs represent eternal life, represent survival through the winter. The parts of us that are resilient and that can make it through and that will withstand no matter the hardship. And so that is such potent information, such potent symbology for us, right? That's why we use evergreen boughs. That's why we have evergreen trees. And this is, of course, I'm a living tree kind of gal. I don't like to cut a tree down. Like, I cannot do that. So they're really heavy though. The pot, it's insane. It's an absolute experience. But to me, I'm like, I can't have an evergreen tree in here that's dead. Like, I need it to be evergreen, right? It needs to be alive. But I did clip all of these clippings here. And there is so much resilient and healing magic in evergreen trees. Y'all, most of you know I'm from the redwoods, and the redwoods have a genome, like their base nucleic acid pairs that are the building blocks of DNA. Human beings have 3 billion. Redwood trees have 29 billion. That is 10 times as many fundamental building blocks as human beings have in a redwood tree. Their healing power, which most evergreens have that same kind of, not totally in the same way as redwoods, but they have this resilience because they don't go through that complete shedding. They're always green. They're always living. So much magic. Then we have pomegranates and apples. Apples help your body detox from heavy metals. Not like we really needed that back in the day, but that's why we have the ancient charm, an apple a day keeps the doctor away, because apples are so good for you. They represent vitality and well-being. So really holding on to that energy of the evergreens as well. But apples, pomegranates, and citrus, which are the fruits that we have here on my altar, those are the last fruiting plants. So apples, lemons, oranges, grapefruits, and pomegranates will be some of the last fruits to blossom, to be harvested before the winter months arrive. So it's really, of course, then we have all the little red berries, but those are not edible. Do not eat them, right? Not a good idea. And of course, like, the birds are really happy about them in the wintertime because that's probably all they get to eat. So decking your halls with boughs of holly, another one of the only fruiting plants, but of course we can't eat those berries, but using these plants during this time has been our oldest ritual, because it's all about, I'm sure many of you have read my book, Intuition. It's all about the symbology. It's all about the message that we're sending to the universe and the messages that we are receiving from the universe, from each of these plants, from these sacred, beautiful, symbolic representations of these aspects that we needed most during winter, right? We needed to feel that vitality. We needed to feel that eternal life in the depths of the darkness, in the times that were harshest. And I mean, guys, everybody be saying like, oh, how do you survive without ordering from Amazon? I'm like, well, it's pretty easy actually. And it's sort of how all of our ancestors survived for hundreds of thousands of years without ever having modern conveniences. They didn't even have heat. I've been trying, like, there's a lot of mornings where like, oh, it's like 50 degrees in my house. And I'm like, gonna just turn on the heater. I'm like, no, I'm gonna build myself a fire and I'm gonna warm my house that way. And it's gonna be a little colder downstairs, but it's gonna be nice and toasty and warm up here. And I'm gonna wear a sweater, and I got some cashmere socks, which I'm really excited about. Of course, secondhand, like everything else. And I can sustain myself. I've got what I need. I don't actually have to rely on modern conveniences. And that's a really powerful practice during this winter time. How can I operate the way that I once would have, or that my ancestors did, in order to honor this dark time? Because in our modern world, we have all this artificial light, which is why women's moon cycles are off, and why we have so many hormonal issues, because we're meant to only have moonlight. Moonlight and firelight were our only sources of light at night. And so when we have artificial lighting, it really messes with our infradian rhythm, which is our lunar rhythm, especially for women. That's what draws our blood and creates our menstrual cycle. And so in the modern world, we have all this artificial light, which is why y'all are seeing, of course, it's daytime because I'm filming, but this is my setup at night. There's one other little salt lamp, red light, here on the corner, and then another one over there, and that's it. Last night, I walked myself down to bed with a candle, and it's so nice, and it's so amazing, and it's a great practice to do during winter. You can get so much deeper sleep, which is going to help your immune system. It's going to help you feel better in general. It's going to amplify your mental and physical and, of course, spiritual well-being, because all of those things are interconnected. And so one of the best rituals that you can do is decking your halls, is just adorning your home and your space. And what I did, literally every single thing here I found, except for the crystals, obviously. I did not dig those out of my backyard. I had my geodes, but I found everything that's on my wreath outside in my yard, including the barrel ring. It's like an old barrel ring, and there's this like huge garden that my new place, and this lady who owns the house just loved her garden, and she's got all this crazy stuff. And so I just found a barrel ring, and I was like, well, I'm gonna use this. And I found some of that like twine, and I grabbed that, and then everything else I just picked out in the garden, just branches and leaves and berries, and then all of these fruits. Everything came from my trees. And of course, like, I know it's special to have those trees because I've never had a garden like this before. So I'm very excited. I was like really hyped to be able to not have to buy a single thing to deck all my halls, you know? But that is an age-old tradition. That is far pre-Christian. That is how we would celebrate during this time, bringing those evergreen boughs into the house, into our home, all of the citrus fruits, the last little orbs of sunlight, right? The lemons and the grapefruits and the oranges, bringing that zest for life into our homes that represent, of course, the sun. The reason why we decorate our trees with red and gold baubles is because of the apples and the pomegranates and the lemons and the oranges. It is all symbolic. It's all representative. And those fruits, of course, represent not only sustenance and survival and well-being and nourishment, but the orangey, red, and yellow ones are very much like our solar star that is now returning. So because this is the darkest night, the invitation is really to look at your darkness, your shadows. If you've had a year like mine, there have been a lot of challenges. I was like, oh, the year of the dragon is going to be my year. It's going to be so good. I'm going to just have the best time ever. It's going to be so much treasure and all of that. And guess where treasure comes from? The dark recesses of the earth. Gold and diamonds and gems comes from the depths of the planet. And so the treasures that we discover in our lives usually come through our hardship, come through our challenges, our trials, and we reach triumph. And that is what offers us some beautiful, magical, incredible gift or reward on the other side. So if you are spending this time on your own, of course, like we'll be doing our ritual again, December 21st at 10 a.m. PST. Join me at the link below. But if you want to just be in solitude during this time, the best thing that you can do is to be in the dark, have your candlelight, light a fire if you have a fireplace, but be in the dark and think about what the dark teaches you. Think about what the darkest times of this year have taught you. Reflect back on these last 12 months and look at what you've learned and what's been challenging and where you've grown and who you've become and how you've changed and what ways you've integrated the insights that have arisen for you. Sorry, this cat is so funny. How can you look at your darkness and mine the treasure? How can you find the gems of wisdom within the greatest hardship that you've experienced throughout this year. And then, of course, any kind of feasting, that's why we have Christmas dinner, right? Because Christmas dinner or solstice dinner or Yule dinner, right? That's where the name Yule was a Norse god who was very present around this time. It's like kind of Santa style vibe, kind of like the Green Man. So he was this spirit of winter. That's where we get that name, that term. So if you're going to have a Yule feast or a solstice feast, you are doing that as a deep, reverential, venerated celebration of the fact that the light is now returning, and all these like last stores of food, you know, the grains and everything that you had to really rely on that was very challenging to make do. This is before refrigeration. Like, you put it in your cellar and hope for the best. You hope that the mice didn't get to it. You know, that's why you have a cat, to keep the rodents away. But like, if it's 20 degrees outside, like the cat doesn't want to go outside. It's not trying to hunt mice outside, right? So this was a very, very hard time. It wasn't easy the way that we have it. Just flip on the heater. No. If you wanted a sweater like this, you had to shear your own sheep, then spin your own wool, then make that wool into thread, then knit or like, you know, on the loom with all your little yarn and make this whole little piece of fabric thing, and then sew it into a sweater, and then you have a sweater. You know how long that would take? A long time. The sheep has to grow the fur, the wool first, right? So thinking about that, holding that in the way that you operate during this time is so impactful. And really think about, as you're buying gifts for people, you know, I know so many of you know that I am deeply committed to being sustainable. So everything in my life is secondhand, everything, or like, you know, that's why I do everything that I can, like, okay, art, restoration hardware, cloud couches, pillows, sheepskins, everything, even the geodes I got at the flea market. Everything in my life is secondhand, including this sweater and the cashmere pants that I'm wearing that match it. Everything. Because there is enough clothing on this planet to clothe the next 6 generations. 6 generations. And the same goes for like all of our appliances and all these plastic things. So when you're making someone a gift, I'm like, I could show you all my little garlands here. Like, well, at least we've got the cranberries, right? Make someone something. Of course, like, yeah, you have to go out and buy cranberries, but at least you're supporting a farmer. Try and get them local, you know, go to your farmer's market. But make things for people, or buy them a thrifted vase or crystal or sweater or pillow or something that you know that they would like. But the best thing that we can do to honor the true symbolic significance of Yule and of winter is to utilize things that either we already have or already exist on the planet. We don't need more stuff, because this would not have been a time of more stuff. There was not any more stuff during our original winters. You were hoping, you were praying that you had enough, not like gathering all this more stuff. No, those gifts, they were about survival. It's like, look, here's a last pair of socks that I knitted for you in order to make it through these next couple of cold months. And it's so important to remember that. It's not to shame us, right? But we have it so easy. And I think that's why the world has come to the kind of place and energy that it is because we're not aware of how easy most things are. And so there's a lot of external hardship. There's a lot of mental health challenges and spiritual wealth challenges. And the people in power are completely desecrating our planet. So remember, this is a holiday, a holy day, a celebration that is so precious because of how little we had during this time, because of how dark it was. And right now, the world is looking a little dark, y'all, and we must be the light. We must face off with our shadows and learn how to alchemize them, learn how to overcome them, learn how to mine the gems of wisdom from them. So that's what we're going to be doing in ritual, again, on December 21st at 10 a.m. PST, if you'd like to join me. And if you're just sitting at home, reflecting, having that winter moment, building yourself a fire, living by candlelight once the sun goes down, that's enough. That's enough. but remember how your ancestors would have lived, what they would have done, who they would have been during this time. And have reverence, give gratitude. Let your thanks and praise be directed towards them for surviving all of those harsh and dark winter days so that you could be here. Because right now the world is asking for us all to stand up, to rise like this sun, to be the Christed ones, to be the anointed ones. Christ means the anointed one. How can we be anointed by the sun, by God, and be in service to the illumination and awakening of our planet? That's the question we get to ask ourselves. So I'm really excited to see y'all in ritual this coming weekend. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your patience as I went through my internal winter over the summer. Now she's back. Hallelujah. Thank Goddess. This has happened to me many, many times since I lived in the Southern Hemisphere, honestly. And I just appreciate you all so deeply. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Share this video with anyone you want to celebrate or honor some solstice and Yule traditions with. Thank you so much for being here and allowing me the honor and pleasure of welcoming you to your most magical life.